Darkest Blood, Chapter 1, Red Eyes, Part 2. A vigorous jolt woke Leuven the following morning. The sun shone in his face through a small slit in the tarpaulin and blinded him. The wagon rocked from side to side, back and forth. The young merchant eagerly poked his head out of the wagon. A branch struck him hard on the cheek, leaving a reddened mark.
Damn!
Leuven looked around. His wagon was no longer by the roadside. It came to an abrupt stop. He was startled to realize that someone or something had pulled him into the forest.
No.
Leuven grumbled, quickly put on his boots, which reeked of sweat and dirt, and climbed out of the wagon. He moved his head around excitedly.
What is going on?
Evan's voice echoed in front of the wagon.
Your mare has not returned.
When he emerged, he wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand.
The wagon is heavier than I expected.
It was you? You pulled my wagon into the forest?
Yes, of course. I told you that your mare hasn't come back. Aren't you listening to me?
But, that's impossible.
Half-demon, already forgotten? You really aren't listening to me.
Evan walked past the merchant.
Are you coming with me, or have you changed your mind?
Do you want to start by telling me why you pulled my wagon into the forest?
Your belongings were so important to you. Now we are safe.
But why? How am I supposed to get it out?
For the time we're on the road, your wagon should be well hidden.
You don't really want to go to Heron Castle, do you? But I probably won't have any other choice. But listen to my words. They will never ever let us into the castle.
Starving to death or being eaten by wild beasts is not an alternative either. Well, then their only choice is to go to the castle.
A loud stomach growl drowned out the forest idyll, with its bird songs and the leaves crackling in the wind. Leuven's face turned red. He felt caught. But truly, he had eaten nothing but dry bread for days, and the rest of it had burst into the flames the night before.
I hope you know what you are doing.
You never know, but I'd like to find out.
Wonderful. Now I'm following a half-demon. Father was right. I'm just not cut out for a life like this.
Reluctantly, Leuven followed Evan through the branches. The narrow, sandy road stretched desolately in front of them, riddled with numerous potholes.
We should reach the castle around noon.
Great. Now I have to walk for hours in the middle of nowhere with a half-demon and an empty stomach. Oh, my limbs hurt.
You haven't been traveling long, have you?
Well, no, not really. I left my hometown about a month ago.
A month ago? I didn't think it had been so long. You survived so far. What's a surprise?
Wow, what? That's more to me than you might think.
Well, run the path shouldn't be an obstacle for you.
I hope so.
For the young merchant, the journey felt like an eternity. Groaning and panting, he trudged up the last hill. Actually, he had been doing it the entire way, but Evan was able to successfully tune him out most of the time. It was only at the end of the journey that the merchant's whining became a burden to him.
Could you perhaps die a little more quietly?
Oh, please, excuse me for disturbing your silence. It's not like we've been wandering around for an eternity.
Sorry, I didn't think it could be any more challenging for you.
But it is. Not all of us are half-demons with supernatural abilities. But while we're on the subject, how do we actually become a half-demon?
What do you mean?
Oh, I've heard a lot of horror stories about demons, but never about a half-demon. Can it really be true?
I am the living proof.
Yes, but as I said before, you look so human. Were you born as a half-demon? How does it work?
Evan stopped and turned to Leuven with a serious look.
Of course not. I was a human, just like you. Maybe not exactly like you.
And, what happened?
If you really want to know, my heart was whipped out.
What?
Don't look like that. It's just the way it is. The heart of a demon beats in my chest now, I'm anything but thrilled about it myself.
So, it was not your choice?
Of course not. Nobody wants something like that. If anyone does, then he's an idiot. And that's enough of the questions. We'll be there soon.
Evan walked on. After a while, the half-demon spotted a tower between the treetops.
Ray, this.
He didn't seem to be off the trail in any way, unlike Leuven, who was breathing heavily with his hands on his knees.
Finally, it's about time. I thought I was going to die.
You managed. Be proud of yourself.
Oh yes, that was a piece of cake, wasn't it? The stone's throw. I'm already looking forward to a walk back after the gods have sent us away. Aren't you?
The half-demon didn't reply, but a slight grin flashed across his face, like a quick lightning bolt through the night sky. The small castle with the tower was surrounded by a massive stone wall to keep enemies out. 2 men in simple iron armor guarded the entrance gate, which was made of thick, rusty iron bars. Leuven's uncertainty was clear to see, while Evan approached the 2 guards calmly. The evil looks didn't bode well. While Leuven was mentally preparing to head back, Evan didn't let any tension arise.
"Stop! No entry!"
said one of the guards in a strong voice, an old but sturdy man with a graying mustache and a bald head. Evan studied him. His fingernails were broken and his face was covered in soot. The eyelids drooped like 2 wet bags.
We would like to speak to Lord Danka.
The 2 guards looked at each other amused.
He want to speak to a lord.
Evan crossed his arms over his chest and nodded. The old guard took a step closer and peered under his hood.
What's wrong with you?
What should be?
Are you sick or something? Are you bringing the plague into our castle?
Never no. I heard rumors.
Evan didn't even try to hide his demonic eyes. On the contrary, he hoped he could gain respect from the guards.
He heard rumors.
Evan nodded.
What rumors?
Asked the second guard, amused. A tall, thin, and young man with greasy blonde curls.
They say there's something lurking in your castle.
Leuven sweated in fear.
Evan, maybe we should.
Fuck off. Go to hell and don't you dare go near the castle ever again.
His head turned red. The veins in his neck throbbed menacingly. But Evan wasn't impressed, even though he was certainly aware of the tense atmosphere.
We are here to help.
You're shit. I won't say it again. Fuck off, asshole.
Stop it.
The guard turned towards the gate, startled. Behind the bars, he spied a young woman wearing a dark green velvet coat.
These are the exterminators the Lord ordered.
Exterminators?
The old man asked irritably and looked at his colleague, who shrugged his shoulders and shook his greasy curls.
Yes, the exterminators. The Lord ordered them 3 days ago.
Exterminators. You don't look like an exterminator.
What does an exterminator look like?
The guard looked past Evan and surveyed Leuven.
At least, not like this.
How many exterminators you have met?
The old man clicked his tongue, lowered his sword, and looked at the young woman behind the gate.
Are you sure?
I am.
I warn you. If you bring us harm, your heads will roll before dusk.
Leuven's heart sank. What have I gotten myself into? He thought to himself. His knees were shaking, and his head was hurting. This was clearly too much for him. First the Carracks, and now they were in trouble with the guards of a nobleman, albeit of a lower title. Evan nodded and looked meaningfully at Leuven.
Open the gate!
The old guard called. The gate opened with a loud metallic sound. The half-demon entered the castle courtyard, closely followed by the young merchant. In front of the castle there were buildings typical of a small castle. A barrack for the guards, a barn, a horse stable, a chicken hedge, and a small shelter under which the blacksmith did his work. The castle itself was very old. Leuven knew the stories about Heron Castle. It was a fief granted by the King of Brunnen. It had been in the Danker family's possession for generations, but only as long as they were loyal to the ruler. The king had the right to hand the castle over to another vassal of the kingdom of Brunnen at any time. There was the brick main house and the tower that they had already spotted from the distance. Evan looked at the young woman.
Thank you, but I hope you know that we are not who you think we are.
Evan, what are you doing?
Can't he even keep his mouth shut? He continued in his mind. It seemed like he was desperate to get into trouble. The young woman laughed and tossed her black curls to the side with a swing of her head.
Oh yes, I was waiting for you.
You were waiting for us? Rather unlikely. How would you know about us?
Evan, please stop.
Well, I've seen it.
She said, looking at the half-demon with her deep blue eyes.
You have seen it.
Yes, I've seen it. I dreamed about you a few days ago, but I have to admit that I didn't see your companion in my dreams.
Ah, you are a seer.
Marie de Boer, I'm pleased to finally meet you. I didn't know if it would actually happen, but I'm even more pleased.
Evan.
And your friend?
I am Leuven.
I really didn't see you in my vision. But what I see is always changing. Time doesn't stand still.
What does a seer do in a castle?
The Lord asked for my help. I assume you're here because you've heard rumors of a ghost. They are true. The Lord sent for me to help him with the plague.
And then? Would you have convinced her to move on? Become friends with them? Sing songs together?
Don't be so rude.
That's fine. I'm used to people not taking me and my talents seriously. But I'm sure I can convince you of my abilities, just like I did with the Lord.
I'm sure you saw that in your dreams.
Come on, it iteration.
She stretched out her arm with a grin.
Come, I will introduce you to Lord Denker. But be careful, the steps are slippery.
They entered the small castle via a narrow stone staircase and a wooden door. Indeed, the stone steps had become slippery from the morning thaw. Leuven almost slipped. He saw his face already lying in the horse manure as he clung to the castle wall in terror. A narrow hallway stretched out in front of them. The furnishings were rather sparse. There was neither a carpet on the floor. Oil paintings of landscapes hung on the walls. Nothing special in Evan's eyes. Even Leuven didn't seem impressed by the furnishings. The gray stone walls were cold and exuded an oppressive atmosphere. The corridor led to the dining room. A massive wooden table with space for up to 10 people stretched out in front of them. Leuven could imagine that banquets had often been celebrated here. Opposite of them was the fireplace, and above it hung a picture of a young knight with golden hair in shining armor. He sat proudly and reverently on a white horse.
Wait here,
said Marie, and disappeared through a door next to the fireplace that apparently led into the tower. Evan nodded and inspected the large room. Bare walls, a few paintings, nothing that reflected the grace of a lord, except for the painting of the young knight. His eyes finally fell on something else, something small and black. On the mantelpiece, he discovered a small box, perhaps 6 inches long. It was decorated with a half-relief depicting various stylized animals and other creatures that were difficult to recognize. The half-demon recognized a deer and a wolf. The other were unfamiliar even to him.
You are pretty rude.
Leuven snorted. Evan looked at him puzzled and stepped away from the fireplace.
I don't trust any seer who claims to have seen me in her dreams.
But without her, we'd never have passed the gate.
There's always more than one way. We could have done it without her.
We wouldn't have, and you know it too. You act so smart, but you're still overproof. Just like with my mare. Oh, she come back. Wait until tomorrow. When she be back? Oh, well, where is she?
Shut up.
No, you don't shut me up. Please ring yourself in as soon as the Lord enters.
Yes, I will behave respectfully towards the Lord.
And Marie?
What should happen to her?
Leuven looked at him intently with wide eyes.
Ren, I be respectful towards her too.
Empty phrases or the truth? Leuven couldn't estimate it, but he hoped they wouldn't get into any trouble. The large door next to the fireplace opened. Marie entered the dining room. Behind her appeared a stocky man with disheveled, medium-length gray hair and a partially braided beard. He wore a robe typical of the lower nobility, a dark green shirt with gold-colored decorations and black, wide trousers. The brown boots were freshly polished. The man looked tired, like he hadn't been able to sleep for days. Leuven looked at him and then looked at the painting above the fireplace. He was sure. The painting showed the Lord, albeit in his younger days. Evan looked confidently at Leuven.
I'm running you.
So, you're a run who Seer was talking about,
said the Lord.
It seems so.
Evan replied coldly, receiving a light nudge from Leuven's elbow.
It seems so, my God,
the half-demon corrected, glaring at the merchant.
Very well. Has Madame de Bourg explained what happened?
Asked the Lord, plopping down on a wooden chair that was standing at the dining table. The legs of the chair cracked under the strain.
Not yet, my lord. I didn't want to get ahead of you.
Well, then, what do you want to know?
Everything. Start from the beginning, tell us a middle, and then the end.
Jeez, you promised.
The half-demon's uncouth manner visibly got on his nerves. In front of a peasant, he could behave as he wanted, but in front of a lord, regardless of rank, society, and etiquette, demand respect.
My lord, forgive me. My colleague is a bit rude. My theory is that he fell on his head as a child.
The lord grimaced and looked first at the half-demon and then at the merchant, in his noble but completely dirty clothes. He glanced briefly at the seer.
And you're sure of this is the one you saw in your vision?
Yes, my lord, I'm sure.
I had imagined it differently. What's wrong with your eyes? Are you sick? Are you bringing the plague to work hard?
My eyes? What should happen to them, my lord?
Well, your eyes look strange. Yet you've caught something.
No, my lord.
But Ren, what is it? That's not normal. Madame de Bourg, that's not normal, is it?
Oh, you mean the color of my eyes?
Yes, but of course. I mean the color of your eyes.
I'm from the south.
And red eyes are common in the south?
Not usually. They are rare there too. But whether brown, blue, green, or red, they are just colors. If I remember correctly, I once knew a prostitute who had gray-yellow eyes. I hadn't seen that before ever.
It's okay, it's okay. It shouldn't interest me any further.
Did you know? The Canva doesn't actually exist. The druids of a shepherd's tree are said to have started this rumor to see whether people would buy this house. In reality, the Canva is just a shade of green. Interesting, isn't it?
Punitive looks hit Leuven from all sides. Embarrassed, he took a step back.
And the chatterbox? You doesn't tell me about him.
My lord, this is Leuven. He is a companion of Mr. Dawn. Unfortunately, I didn't see him in my vision.
You haven't seen him? Right. He doesn't look dangerous.
My lord, we have come to solve your problem. The sooner we start, the sooner I can free you from this. Tell me what you know, and we will be on our way again soon.
I tell you what happened. It started a few weeks ago. At night, the horrifying scream echoed throughout the castle. Everyone woke up from it. As it turned out, this came from our maid Yvette. She was really upset and thought she had seen a ghost.
That's all?
Of course not. We found her in the basement, in the pantry. She said she wanted to check the supplies for winter so she could place the orders for the next few weeks. Suddenly, a girl stood behind her.
A girl?
Yes, A girl, but not just another brat. Yvette claimed that the girl had no eyes. It only had 2 bleeding cavities, at least. That's why my maid fought. But we didn't believe her, at least at that point.
A fantasy, it seems to me.
Yes, that's exactly what we thought. But since then, it has happened more often. Not just Yvette. Several of my servants claim to have seen something eerie. Sometimes in the pantry, sometimes in the horse stable. Even the horses neigh hideously at night. Besides, these dreams pinlug us.
Keep talking.
How about dreams? Each of us has dreamed of his girl without eyes.
Evan looked at Marie.
Did you see her too?
The seer nodded sadly.
Listen, these dreams, I fear surreal. One night, I woke up and the girl suddenly, cut off my breath and pushed my arms into the bed. But then, as if nothing had happened, I woke up again and was lying in bed next to my wife, who was sleeping peacefully. I didn't even know if it was a dream or real.
Sometimes powerful dreams can manifest in our minds. Nothing indicates a ghost yet.
Lord Danker looked at Marie, who answered him with a sad nod.
Then, look at this,
he said to Evan and showed him the burn marks on his wrists. Red prints like those of little fingers.
Huh, of course. That changed everything.
Marie placed her hands on the wooden table.
It's not my imagination. Everyone here in the castle has seen the girl before. They dream of her. They fear her. I can fear her presence too.
Does everyone have the same dream?
Not that I know. It is usually associated with something personal. For example, I dreamed of my mother standing by the fireplace, making soup. Suddenly, she was gone, and the girl jumped out from another table, with their empty eyes and sharp teeth.
Before she gave me these scars, I was also dreaming of something else. I rode into battle on a white horse. To my left and right the men were fighting each other. It was pretty confusing. She stood there in the middle of the banter. Nobody seemed to notice her. Only I could see her. Then she jumped at me. I woke up and she pushed me deep into the bed. Yes, that's how it was.
So it can jump into dreams, but it can also manifest itself in the real world.
So it wasn't a dream?
Do you have any idea what kind of ghost there could be?
The succubus has such abilities. As a rule, she only looks for men who she can drive crazy, but in this case, men and women alike are not spared. Maybe a succubus and incubus pair, but it's unlikely.
A what?
Succubus. These are demons who usually appear in the form of pretty women and seduce men in their sleep. They penetrate deep into the mind.
But why?
Well, they do this to procreate.
How can they reproduce like that?
Oh, well...
They steal the seed from men.
What are they doing?
They steal Nan's seed. They come useless to keep your species alive.
But the ghost was a little girl. For each of us.
That's why I doubt it's a succubus. Whatever it is, firstly, it's tied to his place, and secondly, something must have caused it to appear.
Do you think there was an incident that summoned the ghost?
An incident, a ritual, that's what we have to find out.
Very well. Get this thing out of my castle. Madame de Bourgh, you will help these gentlemen. If you need anything, you can ask Remer.
Danker raised his index finger admonishingly.
And you, feel at home. But not too much, please. You can have a room, and I think fresh clothes wouldn't be a bad idea. Vermeer!
After a moment, the door next to the fireplace opened. A slender, middle-aged man in a neat but not overly elegant robe entered the dining room.
Yes, my lord.
Then there, redress the two gentlemen and wash her clothes. Give them a bath, too.
But of course, my lord, everything is already prepared. If a gentleman permit, I will show you your own. You can change your clothes there. We will wash your armor and robes carefully. Is lemon okay with you?
Oh, please don't do that.
Do you have lavender? I think it makes the laundry smell better.
Please, no.
Of course, sir. If you want to follow me.
Vermeer held the door open for the two of them. They circled the long wooden table. Evan stopped next to Marie.
We should discuss our next course of action.
Go and get ready. In the meantime, I'm sure I know more.
We will meet back here in an hour.
Take your time.
Leuven bowed before following the half-demon.
Lord Danker, my friend and I, we thank you for your hospitality. I promise we'll find out what's going on in your castle.
Perhaps his words were more to boost his own confidence, or was he trusting too much in Evan's abilities? The answer remained hidden from him, but he fervently hoped for a good omen.
Yes, I see. Do what is necessary. I'm going to rest for a few more hours. We postpone lunch until the afternoon. Then there, please inform the cook.
Vermeer nodded and continued to hold the door open for the guests with one hand.
Are the gentlemen all ready?
Vermeer looked at the half-demon invitingly, but his voice was laced with an almost exaggerated friendliness.
May I ask what's for lunch?
Evan grabbed Leuven by the collar and pushed him past Vermeer into the hallway to the chambers.
Hey, don't be so rough.
Vermeer closed the thick wooden door behind him after bowing to the Lord. Danker turned to the seer with a tired look.
Do you think he's the right one?
I think so. Yes, I've definitely seen him. However, I have to admit that there was more. My vision was a bit blurred.
You look very worried.
No, my lord. It always takes a bit of interpretation when you have visions.
Keep a close eye on him. I feel uneasy at the thought of letting a half-demon roam free in my castle. My wife must not find out about it. You are responsible. Do we understand each other?
Of course, my lord.
Ha! He swam himself. Does he think I'm a fool?
My lord, I don't think this was mean as enough for. I just guess he's tired of having to explain himself.
I don't think much of his kind, but as long as he is beneficial to me, he should do what's necessary.
I understand. But I still see some humanity in him.
One drop of demonic blood is enough to lose all one's humanity. As far as I'm concerned, Dunn can also run through his veins. If he is a help to you, let him do his work. If he fails, he will die.
And if he doesn't fail? My lord?
Perhaps I let him live then. But Marie, it should be clear to you that you shouldn't fail either.
The fear was clear on the seer's face. Nevertheless, she put on a confident look.
We will not fail.
I advise you.
Danker left the dining room through the door next to the fireplace. With a bang, it fell into the lock. The seer remained standing at the large table for a while. Her fingernails dug into the tabletop and she bit her lower lip sore. Damn, she thought. I saw him, I'm sure. But he was different. If my dreams punish me for lying, then it will mean my death. The seer stretched her back and let her long black curls fall down her neck.
Okay, that happens. Dreams are just interpretations. They can blur into each other. That probably be it. That must be it.
She was unsure. Her dreams occasionally played tricks on her, but usually her life didn't depend on them. That was the big difference. But she was clever. She had been preparing a plan to escape the castle for days. She knew the duty rosters of the valets by heart, and when the guards changed in the castle and at the gate, she also knew that. For a moment, the seer remained at the wooden table to organize her thoughts, then she also left the hall. The guest room was just as simply furnished as the part of the castle Evan and Leuven had explored so far. Only the large green banners bearing the emblem of a majestic deer adorned the bare walls and brought a touch of color into the room. The banners flew throughout the kingdom. For centuries, the deer on a green background has been the coat of arms of the kingdom of Brunnen. 2 impressive beds made of solid wood complemented each other harmoniously with the cupboards and dressers made of the same wood. Evan suspected oak, even though he wasn't very familiar with wood types. Leuven was impressed as he sank onto one of the large beds.
That's nice. How I missed sleeping in a real bed.
For him, it was pure luxury to be able to swap his sleeping roll for a bed after a month. He snuggled against the pillow.
You could afford a bed? I thought you were a poor merchant.
It may surprise you, but yes, I had my own bed. Who do you think I am?
You give me the impression of a poor merchant.
Leuven puffed out his cheeks. The urge to say something was strong, but he made no comment, letting the air leave his mouth and stretching his arms and legs on the mattress.
Well, gentlemen, you will find fresh clothes in the closet. You should find something suitable. We have a certain selection for our guests. Your armor and robe will be picked up by one of our housekeepers and taken to a laundry room. In the next room, the man will find 2 rush tubs. Warm water has already been filled in.
You seemed well prepared for guests.
That is also part of my job. Madame de Boer also instructed us.
She seems to see a lot, but she hasn't found your ghost yet.
Well, she reported your arrival, and now you are here. So far, she has shown no doubt about her abilities. If the gentlemen have no further wishes, I will withdraw,
said Vermeer, turning on his heel before Evan asked him a question that almost paralyzed him.
And, lad, did you see the girl?
A cold shiver came over Vermeer.
I do not understand, sir.
The Lord mentioned that nearly everyone in the castle saw the girl. Where and when did you see her?
The chamberlain turned back to Evan, looking tense from beneath his bushy eyebrows.
In the stable, sir. About 5 days ago.
In the stable? Really?
It was early in the morning, and the Lord wanted to ride. So I prepared his saddle. Then, suddenly, I felt an ice-cold touch on my neck. The silence became oppressive. The horse neighed, only to force Simon again the next moment. I dared to take a look.
What did you see?
There was this girl who tore off the horse's leg and devoured it in front of me, right in front of my eyes. When it noticed I was watching it, it drew up its leg and slowly turned to face me. It was horrible. Her empty eye sockets. I can still see her in my mind. She began to laugh, a laugh that grew louder and more insane. My ears were already hurting from her mouth. And then, yes then, she opened her mouth and showed me her sharp fangs.
So she attacked you too?
Vermeer looked at him in shock and pushed his collar aside. The deep bite wounds were still clearly visible. The half-demon inspected them in amazement.
Then, if you will excuse me, if you need anything else, call for me.
Evan nodded his thanks. When the valet left the room, Evan could barely stand still. He touched his chin thoughtfully.
What's going on?
I do not believe that we are dealing with a simple ghost.
So, succubus?
Succubus. But no, it was early in the morning. A succubus appear at night when people are sleeping, so we can have an easy time. We are dealing with something far more dangerous. It attacks people. I can't see a pattern, but there must be one.
Is it more dangerous than a demon stealing your seat?
Shut up. No, perhaps a vengeful ghost. Then there definitely has to be a trigger for it. Something related to a little girl. But it could also be a changeling. Oh, Heron, it would be an apparition and couldn't penetrate dreams.
You really have a lot of knowledge about these things.
I've encountered some demons and ghosts too.
Ghosts too, Ian? I thought they were just some horror stories.
There's a lot out there. It seems to have its roots in horror stories.
A cold shiver ran through Leuven. The images of the Carrick attack appeared in his mind again. The powerful tusks, the sharp teeth, the menacing crest of bone on their backs. He swallowed nervously.
Well then, we will find out what this creature is. Trust me.
I'm not sure I even want to find out.
The merchant replied tremblingly, and was startled when a mouse squealed and scurried out from under the bed. He hugged his legs tightly and crouched on the mattress.
They really need an exterminator.
Don't act like that.
The half-demon hissed and walked to the small window. A large forest stretched before his eyes. He could only imagine how long their path to the castle was. Leuven got up from his bed and staggered to the closet.
The bath would definitely do us good. But let's see what we have here.
He rummaged through the entire closet before pulling something out with sparkling eyes.
Well, we have something suitable for you.
The half-demon stared at him, irritated. Leuven pulled out a long lime-green dress with a plunging neckline and embroidered sleeves.
Bassett. Surely that looks good on you.
That's not your taste.
Nah, neither hips nor breasts would find room in it.
The merchant hung the dress back in the closet and brought out something more suitable for the two of them.
I think that should work.
The half-demon looked puzzled at the gold-embroidered green shirt and the black trousers with leather lacing.
I feel more comfortable in my armor.
Leuven did not respond to his words. Instead, he waddled to the next room.
Come, before water gets cold.
You can go first.
Evan replied, looking out the window again into the far distance. He narrowed his eyes as if he were trying to fixate on something with them. The hand clutching his arm snapped him out of his thoughts.
Come on, the water doesn't stay warm forever. Believe me, you need the bath at least as much as I do. So, hurry up.
Very well. Go ahead. I take off the armor. It's in take a while.
I assume you can do it on your own.
The merchant shrugged his shoulders indifferently and pursed his lips unsightly.
I definitely won't miss out on the warm water. My legs and back hurt, which will definitely be good for them. But come right away. I don't want to offend you, but you smell like a horse.
He stalked into the next room, his voice echoing from it.
I didn't want to tell you so clearly, but there doesn't seem to be any other way to move you on.
Evan narrowed his eyes. Why damn, why did I take him with me? It would have been best to leave him in the forest. He knew the answer and took a deep breath.
I should stop always trying to save other people's lives.
Did you say something?
I said, forget it.
He loosens the strap on the second bracer and places them both on his bed. He took his time removing his armor. In the meantime, Leuven began singing a few songs and splashing wildly in the water. The half-demon could truly imagine better places he wanted to be at this point. He wrapped a towel around his waist and followed the young merchant's off-color chants into the next room. Leuven looked at the half-demon with wide eyes as he spotted his shoulder-length matted hair.
Ha! You could also give your hair some fresh air every now and then.
Mind your own business. I've been traveling for weeks.
I'm sorry. It's no different for me, Ava. But you shouldn't neglect personal hygiene.
I keep my eyes on my target. I don't have time to spend on that sort of thing.
Sort of thing? You would be doing the people around you a great service if you didn't call it sort of thing. Besides, what's your target?
It's none of your business.
The half-demon let the towel slide to the floor and climbed into the washtub. He didn't want to admit it in front of Leuven, but the warm water felt comfortable on his skin. Evan felt the relief in his whole body. He almost let out a relaxed sigh, but managed to suppress it. He didn't want to begrudge Leuven this victory. Evan didn't stay in the washtub long. He rubbed his arms, legs, and back with a brush and quickly washed his face and hair. Then, he got out of the tub and put his towel back around his waist.
That was Craig,
remarked Leuven, who was lying relaxed in the tub next to him and had obviously overdone it with the soap. White clouds of foam spilled over the edge and spread like moss on the stone floor.
I washed, didn't I? You shouldn't stay too long, Ava. Otherwise, you shrink.
Don't worry. There's enough body mass.
Evan dried his tangled hair with a second towel and inspected the fresh clothes on his bed. That didn't really suit his style. If he couldn't feel his armor on his body, he preferred simple clothing. The more inconspicuous he was, the better. But in a lord's castle, it probably didn't matter anyway, he thought, until he smelled the lemon scent and his face grimaced. He hated the smell of lemons. At that moment, there was a knock on the door, tearing him out of his thoughts. He opened it gently and looked around the hallway in front of him. No one was to be seen. He was about to close the door again when a high, albeit quiet, voice rang out.
Here, below.
Evan lowered his gaze. In front of him stood a dwarf with medium-length hair and large, buggy eyes. She smiled kindly at him.
I was asked to get you clothes. But sorry, I'm obviously disturbing you.
Evan looked down. He had almost forgotten that he was only wearing a towel. But he wasn't ashamed of it and stretched his back in a relaxed manner. The dwarf was quite petite, despite her puffy face. Evan studied her. She wore simple clothing, typical of court servants.
Sorry, come in.
He wandered over to his bed and folded his armor.
Please, avoid contact with lavender or lemon. I like my clothes to smell sterile.
Glancing over his shoulder, he noticed that the dwarf hadn't moved.
Come in.
Oh, I'd rather stay here. But you can put the clothes in a sack.
She replied, holding out the empty sack in front of her.
You don't have to be afraid of me.
I haven't Ava, sir. But we are not allowed to disturb.
Evan cocked his head to the side, clicked his tongue, and turned back around to fold the armor.
What's your name?
He asked as he bent down to pick up his pants, which had slipped to the floor.
Petunia, sir.
Petunia. All right.
He put his clothes and the pieces of armor into the bag, then paused for a moment.
Petunia, when did you meet the girl?
The girl, sir?
Yes, a ghostly apparition that is wreaking havoc in the castle.
The dwarf dropped the sack on the floor next to her and placed her index finger thoughtfully over her mouth. She tapped her lips several times while staring dreamily at the ceiling.
Petunia?
Ah, yes, the girl. No.
You haven't seen her?
No. I just heard about people's stories. But I have to tell you, I've only been employed at the castle for a week.
For a week?
Yes, sir, for a week.
That would be odd. You've helped me greatly.
What about?
Petunia asked, smiling with a wide mouth at the half-demon.
Well, that's all.
Thank you, sir.
The half-demon closed the door behind him and scratched the back of his head in surprise. Leuven had also finished his bath and came out of the next room wearing a towel.
Who was that?
The maid.
Ah, so she... No!
What's that?
You did that on purpose.
Evan opened his mouth as if to say something, much to his surprise. He couldn't make a sound because he didn't even know what it was about.
Here, you just gave her your clothes.
It really wasn't intentional.
Just because they asked for lavender?
I don't care about the lavender.
Evan shook his head and laid the fresh clothes on his bed.
I knew it.
Leuven, I don't care at all. It doesn't matter if your laundry smells like lavender. It doesn't matter if it's clean or dirty, and I don't care what you think of my opinion.
The merchant puffed himself up.
Go after her. She won't have gotten so far.
Evan said indifferently and wandered into the next room with the fresh clothes.
What? Should I run naked through a castle? Is that what you want?
Jeez, put some clothes on first. She's not that fast on foot, and besides, you probably find the laundry room alone.
A tiring discussion for the half-demon, which he quickly grew weary of. He dressed in his fresh clothes and left the bedchamber. Through the window opposite, he had a good view of the castle courtyard.